no system ever is pristine or perfect. The fact that it's a system means it consistently needs minor tweaks and improvements.
Yeah.
And if you find a glitch, you stop and you fix it. However, at the end of the day, every single system has to do two things. We're here to make a difference. It's our job to help you do that. Welcome to the Impact Driven Entrepreneur. We helps you to build a thriving coaching company by becoming a thriving, impactful CEO. We do that through the Impact Formula methodology. And what this means is that you're going to be selling out your offers, scaling beyond one-on-one into group programs, and leveraging a team so that you can exponentially increase your income and slash your work week. It's time to experience the true income, impact, and freedom you deserve. Welcome back. Today, I have my friend Obehi Alofoje from Aurora Wellness, and we are going to be chatting all about sales workflow automation and really getting your sales system up and running and to a point that you feel comfortable with it in terms of bringing in sales and leads. And of course, this is a friend chat, so we're just going to be talking about our experience and transparently share with you. So welcome, Obehi.
Hi, welcome. Happy to be here, and it's so good to see you again.
Yeah, great to see you. So, do you want to introduce yourself real quick before we start?
Yeah, that's a good idea. My name is Obehi Alofoje, and I'm a psychologist and mental wellness consultant and a productivity coach. And I have a business with my cousin. We run a company called Aurora Wellness. We're based in the UK, and we support HR directors and people managers with mental well-being solutions to ensure employee engagement and happiness in the workplace. So that's what we do, really. We're a consultancy.
Love it. So happy to have you here
Yeah.
and share. So, tell us a little bit. I guess we'll start with so we have topics that our
Mm.
team puts down as bullet points to chat about. So, we'll start
Yeah,
with the
okay.
first one, repeat revenue. So, do you want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
No, you go first.
Okay. So, the first this is such an important, I mean, like star, highlight, underline, and share with all your friends on this one. So repeat revenue is so important for a business. And when I started really looking at the strategy for my own business, what I noticed is all the biggest businesses have some format in, if not multiple formats of creating repeat revenue. So that either comes through having the customers come to you and buy from you more than once, or creating something that they can buy over and over and over again, the same people, and then also share with people. So repeat revenue is such an important thing. And so for me, when I started working it in my coaching company, I decided, okay, I want this to be something that one, that they are purchasing for an extended period of time and that they can just continue buying and it's easy for them to continue to stay in the program. Okay. And then the second way is obviously through referrals and getting their friends in. Um,
Yeah.
what about you? How have you guys used that
Um,
principle?
so our one, because we work with corporate companies and stuff. So our repeat come from where we work with one company. We might work so multiple ways. So we might work with one company and say, okay, yes, can we have mental well-being workshop for the whole general population, for everybody? So that might be one way that they get us in. So part of an all-hand event or something like that, so they might do that. And then they might go, oh, right, right. We would obviously follow up. We always, this is the trick though, we always provide a post-workshop debrief with the hiring sponsor. So
Mm,
if you would HR or the director, whoever hired us to do the work, we would have scheduled a post-mortem, frankly, afterward,
mhm.
which allows them to give us feedback about what went on, how people responded to it, and what come up since we last saw them. So that might be a week or two after the event. During that time, though, we will be asking what people wanted, and then they might go, right, a few people have felt really connected to that topic. they want more support around stress management, it is something that you can do. Yeah. And it will now be a smaller group, and maybe a longer program. Or in a lot of cases, for this signature program that we have, is the for managers. So it's training managers how to support their team members, because that's more cost effective for the company to do than to train every single person in an organization. So that's one way we will get repeat business based on one product, which filtered into another product, but for a different department or for a different type of employee or team, if that makes sense. So that's one way. The second way of repeat is the referral. So we get referred to another company or even another team, really. So that kind of how the repeats tend to work. It's not the same product again, but it might be a upgraded version of the first product in the first place. But I can see how we would probably get another where people will hire for the initial one again, because every year we have new team members, new
Yeah.
staff will start their job. So there'll be a group of a population of the people who did not experience that first training or workshop, which means that we can provide that again halfway in the year or at the end of the year. That makes sense.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And that would be a great one to do a campaign around, by the way.
Yeah. Really good point.
Yeah. Okay. So now I think that that's such an important conversation. And then I would just encourage the viewers to think about how you do this in your business and how, brainstorming on how you can expand that piece, because it's so huge. And if you look, all the big companies, whether you love them or hate them, have some very specific strategies for that repeat revenue. I recently have joined Michael's. Michael's. I
Join
don't know.
what?
Michael's, the craft
What is
store.
that?
The craft
Oh,
store. Yeah,
no.
yeah. No, so like
Because I'm over in
I
the
just
UK, so.
yeah, so there's like a craft store. It's like basically art supplies. And I love doing art for my hobby. So it's super, super fun. And I joined their mailing list for the first time when I went and purchased some canvases for doing some paintings. And so I was like, sure, I'll join the membership, whatever. And so like apparently within a month, I had already purchased enough that they were like sending me a credit for $10. So I went in there. I was like, sweet, I just earned $10. I'm going to go buy more paint, of course.
Of
Like,
course,
what
you
else
go
are
and
you
carry
going
on
to do?
again.
Yeah. You're like,
Then you
keep
buy
buying
more.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I spent the $10 and I spent over the $10. Then I had to pay extra. I mean, I chose to, right? But like, I wanted to buy more than the $10, and that brought me right back in. So, being really, really strategic with your repeat revenue is huge. And I think just being aware and even seeing how other companies are doing it and then deciding how you want to do it.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
totally, I totally agree with that, especially when it comes to B2C. When you think about how people repeat buy, did they buy something they used before because it works well for them? But in the context of connecting with them after they bought the first product, it's asking for feedback, it's asking how
Yeah.
they found the experience. That's another way of having that dialogue again for them to go, actually, yeah, I did enjoy it, but here's what was missing for me.
Right.
And for you to be able to go, oh yeah, we do have something that does that. It's just that we didn't know that's what you wanted the first time, kind of thing.
Right.
So I think repeat business. I think a lot of people don't think about it as much as they should, because they're
Yeah.
usually looking for a new client as opposed to getting the
Yes.
ones that you have and getting them to supporting them to be more effective in what you've sold them. If that makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've shared on the show many times that keeping an existing customer is 6 times cheaper than getting a new one. And so when
Yeah.
you go into it with that in mind, you're like, okay, how can I provide the next level of service for this specific person and
Yeah.
provide more value to this person? Um,
Yeah. Definitely. It's all about the follow-ups as well.
Yeah, yeah. Next, we have super simple sales system. So how do we simplify sales? Because it can be very daunting for people, and especially because if it's something new to them or something they haven't done, or they're building the plane as they're driving it, right? Like, or flying it can feel really complex when really I think sales is very simple. So how can people start to simplify their process? What are some of the things you've
Uh,
done
It's
or
so
thought about? Yeah.
interesting that we're talking about this now, because when I trained with you, you always said that keep it simple. It's not too complicated. Um, but what was out there in the sort of online space, it seemed complicated. A lot of content, then you book calls, and then, but the assumption was that this call is the final piece, like the
Mm,
closing must happen in this one call.
right.
It's not true. So to me, keeping sales simple means having conversations with people, or with that perspective. In other words, somebody who is really interested in buying, someone who needs your product, somebody who just needs to understand it. What makes it simple is getting them to understand why they need it. They might need to understand it in a longer than one session or one conversation with you. So
Yeah.
keeping it simple to me means allowing the, oh, can I get, when can we talk again?
Mhm.
What other questions have I not answered yet? What is the hold up? What is the objection you have? Those could take over, for us, for me in corporate that I do that now, can take over 4 or 5 conversations.
Yeah.
And 4 or 5 conversations can happen over 3 months, 4 months, 6 months. So I think making it simple isn't, it's cleaning it. Who is the person you're talking to? Have you qualified them? That is it. Everything else is simple. And once they've decided to buy or they're on board with it, it becomes, well, where did they go and pay? How did they sign the contract? Those things need to be kept simple.
Yeah.
So that's how I see. I don't know if that answered that question, but I see a lot of the whole, there's a lot of funnels and things, and I'm not sure that that really gets the sale, but I don't know. Maybe just my
Yeah.
thought
I
process on
mean,
it.
I think, okay, so I love that conversation because what you're essentially saying is let the process take as long as it's going to take. You
Yes.
cannot push and rush. And I think
No.
that's the mistake of the online marketing space is the pushing, the rushing that you have to buy it now. And
Yeah.
I mean,
The fake,
fake scarcity.
countdown. Yes,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
scarcity. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's not really, no. It's just not. And I don't know how come we're still doing that, because it's not actually working. The people are more savvy. They know
Yeah.
when they're being sold to. They
Yeah.
know when it's not, it's not honest. They kind of just know, and then we then feel weird and icky because we know that this is not how we would want to be speaking to people or insisting people. So there's no way you're going to close someone in half an hour unless they know your product or they know what you're offering and they already came to buy. The half an hour is
Right.
just a chat to say, to ask some certain questions. So the idea that your sales calls are 30 minutes and you expect closure makes me think that actually that was already a failed system. The probability of that working is lower than if you allow for 5 conversations.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes
Exactly.
sense, but that's what.
That makes perfect sense in my head. I think that the way that the online marketers are able to do the closes in the 30 minutes is because all their content has done that pre-work already.
Yeah.
But the issue is that a lot of times content is just being made for content's sake
Hmm.
instead of with that intentional, like what I call surgical precision, right? Like
Mm.
surgically precise, like I'm going to overcome this, I'm going to teach them about this, and then
Yeah.
doing it enough repetitions that people can absorb that content. So that's how you could overcome that bridge. But I personally, we've had launches where halfway through the launch I literally take down all the crap and the BS around um you have to buy by this date and you have to do this because
Yeah.
it's not authentic. And everybody knows by this point in 2022 that if you are selling a digital course, there's more than 100 options or seats in the digital course,
Hmm.
right? Like everybody knows that's freaking a lie,
And you will
right?
sell
Now
it
it's,
again in the
and
next
you
month.
will
And
sell it
I
again
have
in
no
2 months
problem.
or whatever,
Yes.
6 months, a year, whatever.
I have no problem with people saying, okay, I need you to make a decision by this date, because even you as a consultant or a coach, you're gonna have to close, you're gonna have to move on to the next phase of what you're doing.
Right, like
So
servicing your clients,
yeah, there we
etc.
go. So
Yeah.
if that's your marketing model or your business model, it's totally fine to say I'm going to close door because I need to start focusing on the other part of the business thing.
Yeah.
That allows people to know, oh, okay, I need to make a decision. People do need to make decisions by giving a time. There's a reason why that voucher you got from Michael will expire at some point. So, those kind of things happen. You have to have some sort of date. But it's the lying, it's making it look like this is the last time ever. It's not the last time ever.
Yeah.
Dude, you sold this thing 2 months ago. I saw it and the 2 months before that. So it's not
Right.
the last time ever. It might be in a different context, but it's still the same products. Thank you. So that part makes it, it's like, can be,
Yeah.
I wouldn't want
Yeah.
to buy from someone because of that type of manipulative behavior. So I
Yeah.
think sales, let me go back to the original question you were talking about. Sales simple means keeping it honest,
Yeah.
clean. If you need too many hoops, it's way too much. How do you get on the phone with someone or get on the Zoom call with someone? That is the link. From
Yep.
there is the conversation that tells you, do I want to speak to this person again? Is it important for me to speak to them again? Are they the right person now? Do they fit the program or whatever course the program, those consulting you're selling? If they no longer fit, you let them go.
Yeah.
Refer them to whoever. If they do fit, but you feel like, I need to talk to you more about this because I'm enjoying the conversation we're having. I'm still not clear how this might help you. I'm not sure you're clear how it might help you. Well, can we book another call to talk about it again next week? Or when would be a good time to talk about it again? And then because you're trying to get to know this person, especially if you have a program, this small group program, you need to kind of know who's in there
Yeah.
before you let them in. I've had experience of that where I let somebody into a program and they were not the right fit and they nearly derailed it.
Yeah.
Because they
And
had all
that's
these other issues.
important. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, that's what I was going to say about it. I hope that was helpful in that.
That is,
We're
that's
watching this.
super helpful. And then what are the benefits of having a sales management system? So like, let's go back and explain like what is a sales management system. So for me, how I look at that is basically a way for you to keep track of these conversations, right? Because as we have come down to, right, the simplest way to do it, sales, is to have conversations. So
Yeah,
you got to keep track of it, right? Because you're not going to remember 20, 30 people that you've had 2 to 5 conversations with.
yeah,
And it's in your head, right? On top of everything else that's already happening in your head. So let's ask you, like, how do you guys keep track of those conversations, the relationships, etc.?
yeah. I won't lie. It's not the perfect system we've
It's
got
not perfect. It doesn't. I
at
don't
all.
think so. Here's the thing. I don't think, and I have worked with like really, really good salespeople. I don't think that salespeople can be the most organized people in the
No,
world.
no, I don't. And I don't think they offer plenty of people and plenty of people to sift through. If you
Yeah.
think about the amount of leads that are coming in.
Yeah.
But for me, one of the things that helped me anyway, we kind of use spreadsheet and HubSpot. And Ingrid and I work differently. And that's the other thing. I have a business partner, she's completely different
Way of
productivity
thinking.
style than
Yeah.
me. She likes a spreadsheet. I don't like things that don't remind me that I need to do something with it.
Yeah.
So like if we've been in spreadsheet, I could forget what the hell it was. So I need mine to pop and remind me and say, hey, here's someone
Knock,
you need to
knock.
follow up with.
Remember.
There we go. So I will have I use Asana at the moment to keep track of the lead I want to follow up with. I can, but my team in general, we use HubSpot because that's where all the people we have connected with. Any email I write automatically goes into HubSpot personal leads, but I'm not looking at HubSpot because I can't really go in there. I just get lost in it. And so when I'm thinking about, okay, who am I following up with this month? I have a list. My team let me know this is the list of people I want to follow up with. It's in my Asana. It got a timer. And then I follow up with that. It's not the smoothest of system in terms of the sort of organization of it. But I will say the spreadsheet work, HubSpot works, Asana works. So the trick here is to find the thing that helps you and your team. we would want to get to a stage where we'll use, it's so interesting to talk about it now, but we have the Microsoft Suite stuff that we're using. So, but I don't like the spreadsheet thing on Microsoft. It's not very interactive for me. So that's why we're still using spreadsheet over here, HubSpot over here, Asana over there, until we figure something out. But we're still a young business, 4 years, but this is the first time we're really starting to set our systems up properly. So that might take a while for that to do. But for me, it's whatever helps you, and to be able to keep track of the people that you're following up with, and things like Eventbrite, when people are booking for our roundtables, it helps collect the data, how many people looked at it, how many people booked, their name, email, and I can collate that all after a while. So it's okay where they are, it's just that I have to then be able to pull it out from different places to do what I need to do in a particular week or something. So it's not perfect, like I said, it's just that I could have to find, I know where it is when I need to find it.
Yeah. So I think that the key that you're sharing here is that no system is ever perfect. And that is the key. Like, if you think that your sales system is going to be like this magical, pristine thing, that's not the case. And I have never seen it. No system ever is pristine or perfect. The fact that it's a system means it consistently needs minor tweaks and improvements.
Yeah.
And if you find a glitch, you stop and you fix it. However, at the end of the day, every single system has to do two things, and that's let you know what to do. And you have to have time to work it, because if you don't work it, you're never going to do it. Right.
Yeah.
So
I totally get that. That makes perfect sense to me. I suppose it's when it comes to, because in a way, the system, what does it mean? It just means somewhere where I can store something, I can retrieve it, and I can make sense of it. So I think that's, to me, that's what that means. I'm sure if I ask a project manager what that means, or if I ask a project manager, she's going to give a different definition of that. Yeah, a completely different definition of that. It should not be in 5 places. It is for me because it worked for me. And so that's what I would just say there.
And I have to say, like, in our system, we've done the same thing. Like, sometimes there's something about this particular spreadsheet that works for us. There's something about, it being in Notion that worked for us there. Like, so sometimes you do have to have multiple places.
Things.
Otherwise, you're not going to meet the needs that you want for that thing to work for you. And so for us, honestly, it's been the spreadsheet on Notion. I don't know if it's a spreadsheet. I don't know how to describe it, but basically Notion.
I heard of it, Notion.
Yeah. And that keeps track of the people and the conversations. But the fact that I have to do it has to go into our other systems, right? Like our time management system and like time blocking and the calendar. It's like you said, like, we need something to say, knock, knock, Mariana.
Yeah,
you need to
there we go.
Stop painting and go over here and do sales.
Yeah. Go over there and just do it that way. Yeah.
And of course, through, like, if we're doing it with a launch, it's a different energy to it. But the everyday mundane, like, you got to follow up, you got to do, this, that has to be scheduled in the calendar and be just a routine of your regular everyday. And to me, that's the most important part of the system, because you can have the most beautifully organized, pristine spreadsheet database thing, and you didn't use it, it's no good. No good.
It has to be based on how did it help? How did it help you? Does it help you be more efficient? Is it helping you remember what task goes where? Is it helping you get things done? So to me, if it's helping you get things done and it's not putting anybody else's nose out of joint, because it's one thing to have a system that everybody finds chaotic and it's not helping them, then of course you bring up your whole company's productivity down. So it's about what works for each person. I'm all about individuality, what works for you personally. I've just discovered my marketing assistant might be slightly dyslexic, and we're still looking into that. Can I just say, you need to go and look into that? It might be something, but she not remembering where things are sometimes. She was an intern and she's back at uni again. It's that kind of like, oh my God. I'm like, okay, have you used Asana? And she was like, no, what is that? Like, okay, I will introduce you to Asana. And there it was. And they have her to-do list and my to-do list. The whole company, the rest of everybody else is not using Asana except both of us. And it just
Because that's how
allows us
you work. Yeah.
how our brain works. I can set her schedule in. I can set what tasks. And if I remember, oh my God, I've got to tell her this, then I could add it into her thing. So it becomes a system to work for us in that context there. So yeah, that was interesting. I thought I'd share that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really helpful. And meeting the needs of the people using it is
Yeah.
the key. Yeah. So how do people create a sales system, right? Like how do they go about doing this? I can share what I look at. So I look at pre-qualifying, which you mentioned.
Yeah.
So that's like making sure that the people you're about to go talk to are the right people and
Yeah.
having very specific guidelines. And we go this in way depth in our programs,
Yeah.
but like specific guidelines for you to know that this is the right person.
Yeah.
Because if you're talking to, like, I heard this analogy recently and I was like, this is so good. So the analogy was, if you are a 5-star chef at a high school cafeteria, right? There is no way that you can earn any more money than what you would make at a high school cafeteria.
Yeah.
And the
Oh my God, that's
value,
amazing.
yeah, the value of that work, although it is the most delicious, scrumptious food, you are still going to have teenagers who are grumpy and irritable and hormonal.
Don't eat vegetables.
Yeah, and that don't eat vegetables, critiquing your food. And so you could actually sit there in that and believe you are the worst chef ever. Right. And that's when we start to internalize crap,
Yeah.
because we are in the wrong environment. We are with the wrong people. And so it's not that they are bad people. It's that that's not your target market.
It's not a target audience.
Yeah. Right. So similarly to that in the sales system, it's, that pre-qualification and making sure that you are in front of the right people, that you are speaking to the right people is everything, because you can be beating yourself up. And this has happened to me in my, what are we on now? 7.5 years of entrepreneurship, where I have spoken to the wrong people and everyone's like, I can't afford your program. This is too expensive. Like, what, all the objections. And I'm like, what's wrong here? Oh, right. I'm talking to the wrong people. And so I had internalized a lot of that crap, thinking I was bad at sales, that I was doing it wrong, etc. When the reality is, I was just talking to people who were not at the right phase for the product I was selling. None of it had anything to do with me.
No. Yeah. And honestly, oh my God, I so love that you said that about that was a bloody good analogy, by the way. It's about, no matter what happened, Gordon Ramsay teaching in a high school or cooking in a high school cafeteria is not going to get 5 stars. No. Because he's going to cook, especially if he doesn't amend to the audience. If he keeps saying, oh, look at how I did it here, and he tries to bring it over here, the kids are going to say, we don't like vegetables. Why is the carrot cooked like that? Why does the carrot look like that? So they're going to be all these questions because it's the wrong audience. And he's going to go home thinking, what a load of, that's the worst day ever. Yeah. And exactly. So I totally get that. And I did feel that when I did the B2C stuff. I got the right, people I thought would be the right people, but it's not what their interest was at the time in terms of productivity or mental well-being. I mean, for fine, everybody talks about it now. We think it's important, but everybody thinks they can DIY it themselves, which is fine because they can go and call up a therapist and do all of that work. But when I shifted it to the corporate environment where an organization had to take some responsibility for people, so it became a whole different value. If an organization is waiting for each individual person to go and find their own therapist and sort themselves out, their productivity is not on the person's dime, it's on their dime. So this is why they care. So all of a sudden, the value that we brought was different from what the value looked like when I did the B2C and turning to individual person or the independent business owner, for example. So that's what I love, that really good analogy there. And again, so speaking to pre-qualifying, who are the people that you want. So I'll use my business as an example because I feel like it could give example, then it create context here. Our pre-qualified lead, people that we want to work with who see the value in what we bring. It's not just any corporate business, by the way. So we're not targeting the big businesses, the one with 5,000 staff and 3,000 staff and have offices all around the world. Why? Because they have a procurement process. We don't want to go through procurement. We can't be asked to do that. So we spend time doing the small, medium, so people between 100 to 1,000 staff in employees in their company, because they probably have one HR department with maybe two HR, one people manager and another person. So something where the decision maker is the only person in the room. And if that decision maker isn't the overall decision maker, it's one more person above, not several hundred of people. So that makes sense. So that allowed me to pre-qualify. So the company has to be this specific type of company in terms of the size. Now, the industry, very specific. For us, the people who we really got on with and liked it were tech companies, because they have a younger workforce. Their pain is different. The younger workforce are the ones saying they have to use their noggin to work. They're not physically doing work in terms of building a laptop with their hand. It's up here, creativity is here. So there's something wrong with here. They cannot function very well. Something wrong up, in terms of their mind and mental well-being and all of that. So that tells me when you're pre-qualifying my lead, and when I tell my team, they're looking for small businesses between 100 to 1,000 staff or employee, is in the tech industry or manufacturing, those are the second industry. And I want to talk to HR director, or I don't want to talk to HR advisor or anything like that. I want the big person, the person who is whose job is to create a strategy. That's it. So I'm not getting on the phone with an advisor. So that tells me how I'm going to spend my time. So pre-qualified lead, and then I invite them to a conversion event, which of course you told me how to have a conversion event. But in the corporate, then when we did BTC, it was webinars and a 5-day challenge, remember?
Yeah.
And I kept thinking, what is our equivalent in the corporate? Like how, I don't want to do webinar. There's webinar in corporate, people do webinar, but I felt like the 5-day challenge, there was something about having me and people interacting with me because they got to know, like, trust me within that context. But we couldn't do 5-day challenge for corporate. So what we did was instead was executive roundtables. So we have a small group, literally like 6 to 8 people in the room, Zoom. We have a topic, we discuss it. We show our expertise by having an introduction about what we're doing. So that's the conversation, that's the conversion event. Then we invite them to book a call with us after this meeting. Literally a 90-minute, 60 to 90-minute roundtable discussion, so that they can meet us, they meet each other as their peers who have similar problems and issues in the workplace. We try to get them to problem solve right there and there. And we say, we can't do it in 90 minutes, so you're going to have to call us later to talk about your specific company's need. That becomes the sales call. So that is the system. Sales calls, it goes over, they book calls, and then that call could last for 5 other calls because they're still trying to figure out, all the things that is required. So that's what I would say in terms of building a system. Qualified lead, the conversion event, the thing that helped them to make sense of the thing that allowed them to show that they are the right people or the right company that you want to work with, and then inviting them for a call for deeper diving. So that's really what, to me, that's how I would create a sales management system.
Yeah. And I want to add, and although we started with repeat revenue, that's also at the tail end, right? So the sales doesn't stop there. You also do the repeat revenue and then the upsells. So that's the entirety of a sales system. You've like nailed it. So that's the entire process, right? So
you definitely taught me well.
I have nothing more to add. So that's really that's exactly what it requires, right? And you have also exemplified customizing it completely for you, for your business, for your strength, for your market, for all of the pieces that it requires to actually implement a system, right? It's not, it's not something that is cookie cutter. And I think that's what people want so badly.
I
I
know.
can
I
say as a
don't blame
coach.
them. I mean, if I could copy and paste everything, I probably would copy and paste
Yeah,
everything. But
just copy and
some
paste.
things you just can't.
You can. And some things you don't feel comfortable doing, some things just don't work for you, or maybe your audience isn't responding well to,
Yeah,
right? So these are normal parts of it. But if you are set on, okay, I know I want a sales system that works for us and that can work consistently and repeatably, that's a sales system. And especially if you're looking at automating a sales system, right, and
right.
having
Yeah,
your team do a lot more of the brunt work, that process requires creative problem solving within it, instead of thinking that somebody else's business cookie cutter blueprint will fit in. That's
yeah,
why, the way that we teach it is around these bigger, like, principles. It's not
yeah,
like you have to do this type of thing. It's okay, you need a conversion event. What is it going to be?
yeah,
Right. Yeah.
yeah. And I totally get that around because I know that people, like I said, I would admit, if I thought I could get away with a copy and paste cookie cutter, I probably would do it simply because it makes life easy. I think that's the reason
Right.
why we get, especially business owners, especially if you're new in business, you gravitate to it because you've got other things going on, right? But what I wanted to clarify is that after doing this for 4 years, there's no fast route to this thing. You're going to have to talk to people. You're going to have to decide who you want to target. You're going to find different people to target at the same time to figure it out. That takes time. You're going to try a technique or a conversion event that works one time and then stopped working all of a sudden, but you don't even know what happened there. That will all part of the process to it. I'm not expecting that this is now safe, what I've just discussed with you all, that this stuff is working. I'm expecting that in 6 months something will give because they'll be like, oh, well,
Yes.
because, we're getting away with the online roundtables at the moment simply because of COVID. We were hoping to introduce the in-person roundtables, make it even more, half day breakfast type of thing, because we thought people would be tired of Zoom fatigue at some point. They are. So we're going to get less people wanting to sign up to roundtables because it's still online and people are just sick of it. And so I'm expecting a dip in the number of people who will sign up for these roundtables. So I've had to increase the number of sign-ups. So for example, we would normally say 15 people Eventbrite, maximum 15, knowing half of them will drop off. Remember, we only need 6 in the room. We prefer if it's 6 because people talk really emotionally and deep about the topic we're discussing. When there's a large crowd of people, people tend to be quiet and not really as engaged. But this January, we have a roundtable coming up and I've had to increase it to 20 because that means more people, I'm expecting more people to sign up. But then a lot of people will drop off because they're going to discover I can't do Zoom today. I just
Yeah.
can't. So
Yeah.
we have to be prepared for those type of stuff. So
Yeah.
nothing is fixed and you're always going to be trying something out, but it cannot, there's no cookie cutter or anything. There are
And
templates that
yeah.
you can use and, all of
Yeah.
that,
And
but
that goes
yeah.
back to, like, there's no perfect system. Like, you're always going to be making tweaks. Nothing is wrong with you. It's not like the sky is falling. It's just that sales requires people, and people go through phases, change their mind, are affected by world events. Like, that's just the reality of it, right?
Mhm.
So being able to be flexible, moldable, and yeah, basically, like, keep creative problem solving, just keep going,
Yeah.
is everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. So where can people find out more about Aurora Wellness, find out more about you, connect with you and your team?
Okay, well, we're on LinkedIn mostly. I'm on Facebook, so you can find me in person personally, and happy to take a DM from you guys for sure. Don't worry about that. LinkedIn is where corporate people tend to find us. So if you're connected there, then connect with me as well. And just happy to be able to talk through anything. If you have questions at all, I'm quite open. I'm happy to chat. Yeah,
Awesome. Thank you so
thank
much. It's been a
you.
pleasure as always.
Absolutely, good to see you again.
You too. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and click the like, hit the subscribe and click on the bell so that you never miss an episode and help our channel to grow and reach more people. I hope you have an impactful day, and I will see you in the next one.